Hey everybody, I'm Rousseau. I do a little work here and there. Today I'm just going to run you through the files that I put together for building the vault door from Fallout 1 and 2. There are a few pieces here that might be a little off, some that might be missing altogether, but I will cover that as I go along. The first page is just a box. It's the outside of the door. Of course, you'll have to build all the inside parts first. The second page is a mix of pieces. They're the teeth that the gear rolls on outside of the door, coverings for the back corners of the airlock, bottom tooth for the gear door frame, and the top tooth for the gear door frame along with an end cap for that. Then a piece that you'll use as the channel for the magnet arm that goes out and picks up the door. Of course, I think that might be twice as deep as it's supposed to be. Doesn't really matter, you got a lot of extra material to work with. Then you have some gear door frame pieces for the right hand side. These have a gap in the middle so that the magnet arm can slide through them. Then you have two gear shapes. These are slightly larger than the ones on page 3, where you have a lot more gear shapes. These are going to make up the interior of the gear, and depending on how thick your cardstock is, mine being 110 pounds, you'll need a different number of these gears. I'd say somewhere around 100. Basically, you just want to make the frame the same thickness as the gear. Next, we have another page of the slotted gear door frame, and then a page of complete gear door frames. Next is a backsplash for the gear door frame that, as it goes down, gets slightly smaller, and that'll hold the whole thing together, since there are gaps at the top and bottom. Next, we have the numbered outside of the gear door. There are a few pieces here with holes, and that's so you can put a magnet in there if you want to. If you don't want the door to be pulled by that little arm, don't make it. No problem. The 3 strips in the bottom right are strips that you'll wrap around the teeth of the gears so that you can get those to look smooth. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You could just shave it down with a razor blade or do any number of other things. Next, we have half of a 12-inch wall segment. You're going to need 2 of these for each side of the airlock chamber. Next page, we have inside corners for the airlock chamber, and a couple that you can use on the side that connects to the door. Then we have the piece that we will use as a doorway to the rest of the vault. And that's going to get wrapped around some foam core, just like the 12-inch wall segments. And there's also a backsplash for one of the doors, which you'll find on the next page. There's an over-the-wall segment for the back door with 3 areas that need cut out. Then you have a bunch of pieces that you layer up to make the actual doors. And on these that say 13, cut the 13s out. 13 piece, normal piece, backsplash piece, you got a door. And this is the piece that covers up the inside of the door and the top of the door piece. And a little ring to go on the outside of that if you want to do that. Next up, you have all the wall panels for the airlock. These wrap over the top. These little bits with the circles and the lines go into those holes. And then you have enough pieces to make a locker to go over one of the panels. Next up, some assorted pieces for the cubby that the gear rolls into. You've got a long piece for in front of the gear pathway that it rolls along, a bit to make the actual room, and a little roof for the room. It sort of fits on as a cap. You might have to modify it a little bit to add in the shutter door. There's also an extra full gear door frame piece, but you might notice there is a distinct lack of shutter door. Well, that's because I didn't make a pattern for that. There are a lot of tolerances here. You're going to have to modify a lot of things, so just make a flat piece that can slide down in front of this doorway, and you should be good. Maybe 1/4 inch strips across it, and it'll look like a shutter door, as you can see. Next up, we got some door framing stuff. These are the door frames for the interior blast door. You can see this top part just glues on flat, and then these bits on the side make like triangle boxes. Then you have an actual box, which makes the door, and you glue those backsplashes you made earlier onto that. Got all these rectangle pieces that you glue a pipe to. Got little consoles, little things that lights glued to above the doors, little 13s that you can use for whatever you want, little cross pieces to fit on the tops of the back corners, the stuff that you need to build the little magnet arm that pulls out the door, and some miscellaneous parts to build the console. You're going to need toothpicks for that. But basically you have the main body, you have another box that you can put inside of that if you want to cut out this little window, and you got some bits that glue onto the sides, and then you got these strips that wrap around the toothpicks, and little bits that you glue onto the bottom for a nice molded base. Then you just glue that onto everything else. Finally, the last page is the grating for for the floor inside the airlock. The only pieces that aren't represented here are the lights, which are just cones with the tips clipped off, a little bead shoved in the end, cut the end off so that it's level with the bead. And even the bead, that's not a big deal. Most people aren't going to look up into those. And all these pipe things are toothpicks that I soaked in water and then slowly broke and bent around. And that is pretty much it. You want to build one of these doors? Well, get some cardstock and a little bit of patience, and this prize could be yours. That's it for today. I got a lot of other stuff to work on. Until next time, as always, rate, comment, and subscribe if you're so inclined. Of course, you don't want to, that's all fine. I'm Rousseau, this has been Rousseau Works. Rousseau